Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about my labor and delivery story. So my labor and delivery story started on March 14th, 2017. I was 40 weeks pregnant and I went in for my regular 40-week checkup and I had no signs or symptoms of labor. I thought I was going to go way past my due date with how I was feeling, and they went and checked me because they do start checking you, I think it's like it's either 38 or 39 weeks they start to check to see if you dilated any or if you were effaced any, and I wasn't. I was like not even a centimeter dilated. So after she checked me, Brandon and I noticed there was some water on the bed, but we didn't think anything of it. I just shot a sheet right over it and thinking maybe I just peed myself a little. A lot of things like that happen when you're pregnant, so it was just nothing to us, so we walked out. And when I got home, I noticed I was leaking quite a bit, and the nurse called back from the hospital and she had told me, I think your water broke on our table. If you continue to leak, please come back. So, okay, well, we'll go back and maybe just check to see if I dilated any. So I remember Brandon telling me, do you want to bring your bags? And I said no, and he said, are you sure? And I was like, they're not going to keep me, they're just going to check me and send me home and say, okay, well, you're probably going to start labor any day now. So that's what I was expecting. And I guess I should have listened to him, because after she checked me, I was, I think, 1.5 centimeters dilated, and they wanted me to stay because, not only because I had a leak, but because there was a storm the following day, which would have been a Wednesday, and the doctor said she didn't want me to risk going home and then having to travel back in a blizzard. So I thought about it. Like, ultimately it was my choice. So I sat in the bed and I was thinking, should I, what should I do? So yes, we got admitted at 5 p.m. that Tuesday, and I sent Brandon home to get all our stuff, all my bags. Thankfully, everything was packed and ready to go. They picked me up in a wheelchair in the emergency room, put me in a room right away. It was just a relaxing night. I just remember getting in my hospital gown, taking it easy, trying to get a good night's sleep, because I knew that that was going to be the last good sleep I would have for a long time. But I was just so anxious and nervous, and so much adrenaline running through me. I didn't sleep very good. And there's also a nurse that comes in throughout the night to check your blood pressure and your temperature every 2 hours, I think it is. Set up my IV, which they had to do 5 times before they got it right. The first IV I did wear just above my thumb for the night, overnight, but the next morning they noticed it was really swollen, so they had to, it didn't go in the vein, so they had to find another spot. And that didn't work, and the third time didn't work, and the fourth time didn't work. So finally, when I was in labor and delivery, it worked. She put it, I don't know if it was on this side or that side, I can't remember, but yeah, so, and 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, the 15th of March, my nurse, who was with me all day, came in to get me. They said they had to do an enema and do some blood work before I went into the labor and delivery. I didn't end up having to get an enema, thankfully. Well, in the end I did, but not to go into the labor and delivery room. So yeah, she said, let's go if you're ready. So I got up, I walked to the labor and delivery room, I got into that bed, and at this point, it's about 8:30, 8:45, they started me on Pitocin, and she said it might not work. If it doesn't work, we do have to try again in 12 hours. So I was kind of nervous about that. I really wanted the labor to finally just start. I was so anxious. I wanted to just honestly get it done and over with, because you're tired of being pregnant, you want to meet your baby, and all that kind of stuff. So at about, I think it was 11 o'clock, 11:30, where I finally started feeling very light contractions, and I thought, okay, I'm dilating. That's what I thought. I thought once you start feeling the contractions coming, you're dilating. But that wasn't the case for me, not right away anyways. I had light contractions from 11:30 till about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and then they really started to pick up, and I wasn't passing 2 centimeters. I was starting to get really discouraged. I didn't want to have to end up going for a C-section. I really wanted to have a vaginal birth, and at this point I was in tears because, one, it hurts. I don't want to scare anybody, but it does really hurt when they check you. I mean, maybe some people's pain tolerance is much higher than mine, but I don't know, I would just cry every time they checked me, especially when I was in the labor and delivery room and I was a little over 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters dilated. I just remember holding Brandon's hand and screaming like in agony, like the pain. And that's just my story. Your story could be completely different. Everyone's different, but it was just tough. And they tell you to relax and put your fists under your butt, but that was impossible for me. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't lay still. I was just moving my legs, and it was, so much pain, and it's not comfortable. I guess I shouldn't say painful. It's just really, really uncomfortable. So yeah, she went and she checked me, and I was still 2 centimeters dilated, around 2. And at that point I was like, oh, I want to dilate. I thought right then and there, I was like, it's been since 8:30. I haven't got past 2 centimeters. So I thought for sure things weren't going to go the way I wanted them to, but luckily I had such a good nurse, and she said, we're going to try everything before, we jump to conclusions. So she said, I want you to go on all fours on the bed, and she pulled out like an extender on the bed, and she put me, I flipped over, and I had a pillow under my chest area, and I had to just lay there like that for about a half hour, she said. And she said, this could possibly break the rest of your water. Because at this point, I still just had a leak. My water didn't completely break. And I was crying. I remember crying because I was so discouraged. And I just had to stay positive. And Brandon was right there next to me, being really supportive the whole time. Anyway, so a half hour passes, and I get up to use the bathroom, and my water just broke completely. I knew right away because when I was peeing, I didn't stop. It wouldn't stop coming out. I told my nurse to come over, and she comes in and she said, oh yeah, your water broke, so now for the rest of the day you're going to be leaking. Don't be alarmed. We're going to put the little pee pads underneath you on the bed. So yeah, I had a pee pad under me for the rest of the day. I felt like I just kept peeing myself. That's what it felt like. Finally, she checked me again, but this time it wasn't too bad. I just took a breath, and that's what you have to do throughout your whole labor and delivery, is you have to breathe correctly, and it will help. So I remember her checking, and she said I was 3.5 centimeters, and at that point you are just like, I don't care, just get my signature and put that needle in my back. You sit at the edge of the bed, and you open the back of your gown, and I don't know what he does back there, but it doesn't take very long. It's a very, very simple procedure. I thought it was going to hurt way more than it actually did. If I'm being honest, I don't even think I felt anything really except the initial little pinch. If you've ever gotten a tattoo, then you can definitely handle this. I think that was the easiest part of the whole thing. It was just a breeze for me. But like I said, everyone's different. Everyone has a different pain tolerance. But in my experience, it's worth it to get it. So after I got the epidural, I was able to relax. And he did say sometimes it doesn't work on some women. So that kind of made me a little antsy. I was like, oh, I have that kind of luck where this wouldn't work for me, but let me tell you, it worked wonders. At this point, when they checked me, I no longer felt it, so I was able to relax, which my nurse said it's good. When your muscles are relaxed, it allows you to dilate, and I believe that's why I dilated so quickly after the epidural. I just felt like it was boom, boom, boom. I was able to nap because before I got the epidural, I just thought to myself, I said, oh, if I don't get the epidural, I'm not going to have enough energy to push this baby out because I was so tired. It's draining. You just feel so exhausted. So finally, when I did get it, I was able to nap. Everybody left the room except my nurse, of course, and I just laid there for 2 hours. I just closed my eyes, I fell asleep, and I still did feel the contractions like lightly, but so faint. They weren't bothering me. You know, it wasn't keeping me awake. After I woke up from my nap, I believe I was 7.5 centimeters dilated, and that's when I was so happy. I felt relieved that I was dilating. That's when I think I really felt like, okay, this is happening, and it's happening soon. So I sat at 7.5 centimeters for about 2 hours, and then she checked me again, and I was 8. And then I think 2 hours later I was 9, and by that time they were getting everything ready in the room for me to start pushing, and my doctor came in and they had the table, and I'm telling you, that table, if you had a doctor like I had, which she was great, I loved her, it is like a, what can I call it? It is like do not touch area. I mean, she was so strict with people being around the table because it is sterilized. I don't know, I thought it kind of, obviously you need to be aware and be careful in that kind of situation, but it was just like, don't go around the table, don't go around the table, don't touch the table, don't walk around the table, make sure you don't touch the table. So, I don't know. Anyways, when they were getting me ready to push, my right side was way more asleep, I guess, numb, what it felt like. It feels like, you know, when your leg falls asleep, that's what it feels like. That's how it felt for me anyways. My right side was just, it was, I don't know, I couldn't feel it. It was dead weight, and that was the side Brandon was on, so he had to hold my leg up, and the other side, it wasn't too bad. And I know it's gravity based, but I was just laying straight on my back just like this. And I don't know, it still ended up working on one side better than the other, but I still didn't feel anything down there. At one point before I started to push, I don't know, I can't remember how they were able to tell. I think they checked me, yeah, obviously. They said that Jersey's head was a little bit crooked, so they had to try to make it straight again. So I had to go ahead and move my right leg over my left and lay on my side for a couple of minutes, and at this point, 8 and 9 and 10 centimeters, I felt the contractions again, like they were brutal. It wasn't so bad when I was on my back actually, but when I was on my side, that's when I felt them the most. It was pretty painful. I just remember banging on the rail of the bed and just trying to breathe, like, and just banging on the bed because it is painful. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's weird because I know some women, when they get the epidural, they can't feel the contractions, but I did. And I'm thankful for that because I've seen a lot of vlogs where some moms were like, I didn't know when to push because I was so numb, I didn't feel the contractions. Luckily, that wasn't my case. I was able to feel them coming. And the nurse will be there too. She kind of pats your stomach to feel around where the contraction's starting, because you feel it coming, and then you feel your stomach harden up at the same time. So your nurse, or my nurse, she patted my whole delivery. So they flipped me back over, and that's when I was ready to push. And at this point, you just kind of wait around for your first contraction, and then they go ahead and they tell you to push. And pushing's not as bad as it seems like it would be. Like me, I thought pushing would be harder than labor because you're like, okay, a baby's gonna come out of there soon. And that kind of scared me more than the idea of labor itself. When you're not having a contraction, you don't have to push. So we just kind of sat, we were all just standing, well, I was laying, everyone else was just kind of standing around. I remember a big conversation was, what I was going to eat after. I had 2 nurses, my doctor, Brandon, and then I had a student nurse. Actually, it was her very first birth. They asked me if I would mind. I said, of course not. I think she really enjoyed it. She almost started crying at the end of it. It was very emotional for everyone. It was just really, it was a really happy experience, something you can't explain until you're in that situation yourself. They told me to stop pushing for a minute when her head came out, and there was no cord wrapped around her neck, so they told me to push one last time. I barely even pushed. I just remember I just remember her slipping out. So finally, after about 2 hours of pushing, Jersey finally made it into this world, and it was the best feeling ever. I can't even explain, and I didn't feel it. I could feel her come out, but it didn't hurt. Like, it's hard to explain. My epidural worked really good, so you could tell something's coming out of you, but it doesn't hurt. It didn't hurt as much as you would think it would. They put her on my chest right away. I was so lucky. I was able to hold Jersey for the first, I think she was on my chest for about an hour and a half before they took her into the nursery. I actually ended up having to ask them, okay, can you take her into the nursery now, because I wanted to know how much she weighed and I wanted Brandon to hold her, and I wanted to relax. I just felt so tired. She's up. Finally, after about an hour and a half, they took her into the nursery, and I was being stitched up. It took a very long time to stitch me up. I think I was getting stitched up for, I think it took them about 3 hours to stitch me up, because we only got back to my recovery room at about 4 a.m. and I had her at 11:19 p.m. on March 15, 2017. She was 8 pounds, 8 ounces, and 21.5 inches long. I did suffer from a 4th degree tear on top of an episiotomy, which really sucked for recovery. I'm telling you guys, I had the recovery from hell. I am just starting to feel 100% healed now. I ended up having to go get my episiotomy redone. Just about, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, I went to the OR because it wasn't healing properly, and that really sucked. But I went to the hospital, to the emergency, in April, the beginning of April, because I was in so much pain. I couldn't sit on my butt, I couldn't use the bathroom without it hurting. I just knew there was something wrong, and I thought maybe there was an infection starting, or if I already had one. So when I went to the hospital, the doctor referred me to the OBGYN here in town, and he followed me up. He still follows me up. He let me try to let it heal on its own for a couple of weeks before he went ahead and booked me for the reconstructive surgery. Well, I wouldn't say reconstructive surgery. He just had to do the episiotomy over again and stitch it back up the correct way, because the OB that stitched me up in the hospital when I had Jersey stitched me up wrong. She did pull a piece of skin from the left onto the right, and I know this is TMI, but this is just what happened to me. She took a piece of my skin from the left and sewed it up to the right side when it was supposed to just be straight down. So luckily this OB here in town was able to fix that. It was just a day surgery. I didn't feel a thing. I was awake. I just got local anesthetic, and it only took about 20 minutes. So thankfully that was fixed, and about a week after that I was feeling like, it's still not healing, you know, it's still TMI again, but it still burns, and I just felt so discouraged. I thought I was just never going to heal again. I thought I was never going to be able to have kids vaginally again, which is not the case. I did talk to my OB, and he said, don't worry about that, you'll be able to have more children. It was just still hurting after a week, but then I let another week go by, and now I feel, I guess you can say 100%. I don't know how many stitches I got the first time, and I don't know how many stitches I got the second time. They never really told me, but I know the first time with a 4th degree tear in and out, on top of an episiotomy, it's probably a lot. You know, it was just really tough. The first month, it was tough to wake up in the night and do feedings for Jersey. because I could barely sit on my bum. It just hurt so bad, guys. Oh. But anyways, she's crying. Brandon's out there with her though, don't worry. So I do have to go back and follow up with the OB, I believe in 2 more weeks, and I'm really confident that I won't have to go back after that because I feel so much better. I can finally, do daily activities without being in some kind of pain, like sensitive. If I was on my feet for too long, I would feel like I was straining down below, but that's no longer the case, thankfully. And yeah, I would do it all over again. So I just wanted to show you guys some things that the hospital will give you, because these are things that nobody told me that I would receive, and just some things that I thought were really helpful. I'm telling you, these things are lifesavers. So I'm going to start with the very first thing, which is Heaven Sent. This is the best. I still have it. I don't even think I'm going to get rid of it. It's to use when you go to the bathroom, either number 1 or number 2. I used it all the time. I just recently stopped using it because I did have to go get the episiotomy redone. So you just squirt it down below when you use the bathroom so your stitches don't burn, and because you keep the area clean. And another thing they'll give you is these things called tucks. These are another lifesaver for your first couple of days, maybe even weeks into your postpartum journey. You just go ahead and you put them on your pad. You can put 1 or 2. I usually put 2. They're the best when they're refrigerated, so they're really nice and cold. I asked for like millions of these before I left the hospital. They will give you these pads, well, I guess diaper. It's pretty massive. I didn't like these. I did have to wear them though for the first 2 days because excessive blood, and I don't know, I find with stitches on the outside it was really uncomfortable. It was really thick, so I didn't like these, but I did have to tough it out for a couple of days, and then I was able to switch over just to the regular nighttime maxi pads. These are the kind that I used. I found they were so much better because they're thin. The thinner the better it was for me. So yeah, you will get this at the hospital, and well, you have to go buy your own. They do give you pads, but they're really thick as well. On top of that, they'll give you these babies. Now these are the best for postpartum. I came home with, I think, maybe 6 or 7 pair. I still do have a pair. I don't know why. There was just one in my closet. So yeah, these are what they're gonna look like, and they're really comfortable, guys. You don't want to ruin your good panties. So now another thing nobody told me that I would get after I had a baby is this bad boy. This is called a sitz tub, and you have to use it. They told me, I think it started out at 3 times a day, like your first couple days of postpartum, maybe even first couple weeks. In my case, I've been using this for the last 3 months. You just put it on your toilet. It says front, so obviously that's the back. You put it in with some warm water. I put salt in it because salt water is much better to heal wounds. And you sit in it for, I would sit in it between 10 and 20 minutes. It just depended on how I felt that day, if I felt more sore. But eventually, you don't really need it after so long, because when you heal normally, once you're healed, you're healed. You don't need to do sitz tubs anymore, but that wasn't the case for me. I had to get, like I said, when I got my episiotomy redone, I had to go ahead and do sitz tubs. Still, I just never really got to not do a sitz tub, so I've been sitz tub free for the last 2 weeks, I'm gonna say. They will provide this for you at the hospital, that you can bring it home. Timer died, so I went and just grabbed my other one. As I was saying, this is essential in your postpartum journey. And last but not least, this baby. This is called a donut. I'm sure you guys already know and have heard of these before. I needed this for pretty much my whole postpartum journey so far, because like I said, I had a really tough recovery with healing, so my bottom was really sensitive, so anytime I sat too long I felt like I was straining it, and this really truly helped. I really recommend, if you want to be on the safe side just in case you do tear, to get one or borrow one. And there's one more thing, and I don't have any right now, but a good thing for wounds is called witch hazel. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but it did wonders too. It's kind of like a Tux, except it is a liquid form. You pour it onto a pad and then you wrap it up in saran wrap and you throw it in the freezer for a couple of hours, and then you go ahead and you can put it on, and it just gives you this sort of relief. Anything cold will feel good. So when you take it out of the freezer, I let it sit out of the freezer for at least 10 minutes so it's not solid, and then you put it on. Don't wear it too long. I only wore mine for about 15-20 minutes. I don't think it's recommended to wear any longer than that. So yeah, that was really helpful too. Chocolate.
There you go.
She's sleeping?
Yeah.
Just sent Brian to DQ to get me a milkshake. So those are just some things that the hospital will provide to you. It's really important that you use the squirt bottle, and really important that you do your sits tubs, because, I mean, nobody even told me about those before I had Jersey. I didn't even know what it was. They had to explain, they will explain to you what to do and how many times a day to do it and for how long, and it all depends probably too on your tear, I would assume. Like if somebody didn't tear at all, I don't know if they would even have to do sits tubs, but if you do, you have to keep the area clean, so therefore sit tubs. I had such a great experience. I was kind of nervous going into the maternity ward because you do hear a lot of horror stories, and you know, moms who share their stories about how terrible the nurses are or how terrible the doctor treats you. So I was going in there kind of thinking like, I hope that everyone's in a good mood and I'm not feeling like a bother. But they were just the best team of nurses. I couldn't ask for a better team of nurses, and such a good doctor. Aside from being stitched up incorrectly, everything was great. I couldn't ask for a better experience. Brandon was there all along. He did see Jersey come right out. The nurses at one point thought he was gonna faint, but he wasn't. He was just really hot, and they thought he was starting to, I don't know, get too worked up, but he was fine. And I knew I could, you know, when you've been with somebody for so long, you can just tell when something's wrong or not, and I knew he was fine. But the nurses, they just wanted to make sure he was okay, so they made him sit down and they gave him some apple juice because they thought his sugars were dropping. So yeah, that is my labor and delivery story and a little bit of my postpartum journey so far. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!